Well, good morning, Michiganders. It is Tuesday, September 24, and this is Tuesday with Tom, Michigan's only weekly internet show where we do answer your questions about estate planning and estate settlement in Michigan. I'm your host, Tom Doyle, estate planning attorney, lifelong Michigan resident, and ambassador for all things good in this great state of Michigan. Welcome to today's program, and welcome to what I think is the first full day of fall. I'm pretty sure fall starts today, September 24th, or at least today's the first full day. It might have arrived partway through yesterday on the 23rd. Irrespective, I hope you're having a good Tuesday morning. A brief recap of last week's show. I asked and answered the question, does a will avoid probate? So if you have that question, if you want to know whether or not a will is going to avoid probate for you, I encourage you to listen to last week's episode. Today's episode comes as a result of an article that I was reading on AARP online the other day. And it got me to thinking about this particular topic. And so today's topic is going to be 7 ways to help your spouse after your death. But please remember, what I'm about to discuss during the program is, as always, for educational purposes only. It is not intended to be legal advice. You need to work with your attorney to determine what is appropriate for you and your estate plan. And before we get started today, I would be remiss if I didn't remind you that Amanda and I would be honored to have the opportunity to help you protect your loved ones by putting together an estate plan or perhaps amending a plan that you already have, even if it's a plan that we did not prepare for you, or assisting you in settling a loved one's estate. Simply call the office today, 517-323-7366. That's 517-323-7366, and we'll set you up either a time to meet with us in Lansing, or we can start with a telephone call wherever you happen to be, talk to you about what your circumstances are, and discuss how it is that we can help you from there. We, in fact, have clients that we represent throughout the entire state of Michigan. And as always, if it is an initial estate planning consultation, we'll make sure that you get a copy of our free recently updated estate planning guidebook. Although if you want to get a head start on that, head on over to doylelawpc.com and you can download a copy from the website. Alternatively, you could set a time to meet with one of the many financial professionals who are located throughout the state of Michigan, who are authorized by our office to help facilitate your estate plan with our exclusive Express Estate Plan service. Similar to buying life insurance, with life insurance you meet with your insurance agent, provide them the information that the insurance company requires. Similar concept, you would meet with one of the authorized facilitators. They would gather from you all of the information that we require. They send it to us on your behalf. We'll start out with a telephone call then to make sure we understand what's been sent to us. Make sure all of your questions are answered before any work is done for you. And then if it's decided that we're going to do the estate plan for you, we will prepare it, ship it to you, priority mail, with complete execution instructions. For more information about the service or to locate an authorized facilitator near you, go to expressestateplans.com. That's expressestateplans.com, where you will find more information about the service, and we've included a map with tabs on it indicating where all the various authorized facilitators are. Simply click on a tab near you and it will have the facilitator's contact information. 7 ways to help your spouse after your death. And I'm not talking about coming back from the grave after you die or visiting your spouse in his or her dreams or any of those kinds of things. I'm talking about, we normally look at estate planning and talk about the importance of estate plan, but there are other things that you can do that really aren't estate planning necessarily that would help your spouse after your death. So let's talk about 7 of them today. 1, gather up all of your financial papers. Make sure your deeds, your passports, your insurance policies, estate documents, financial account documents, make sure they're all organized and located where a surviving spouse can easily find Lynn. I can't tell you how many estates Amanda and I work on settling where one spouse primarily took care of paying the bills and managing the documents, etc., and they die, and the other spouse unfortunately was clueless because they didn't know where all that information was. They didn't know where their insurance policies or statements from financial accounts or anything else. They didn't have any information. So get all of your financial papers in order. Number 2, make what you might think of as a must-call list. Have a list, contact information for your accountant, your lawyer, financial professionals, anybody that would need to be contacted when a spouse dies. So again, your surviving spouse isn't left wondering, geez, I wonder who the accountant is and how I get a hold of them, or who the financial advisor is and how I get a hold of them. You should, in fact, meet with those people during your spouse's lifetime so that you're familiar with them and they are familiar with you. So don't just make a list, but really go beyond the list and make sure that you've had an introduction to those various professionals. Number 3, and this is a big one, share your passwords. And it's something that comes up all the time, but somewhere you need to keep a master list of all of your usernames and all of your passwords to all of your various online accounts. And you need to make sure that your spouse will have access to that list so he or she can have access to your accounts after your death. Some people just write the list out and keep it in a secure location. Other folks might use some online services for doing that. But whatever it is, think of if you died today, how is your spouse going to know about all of the online accounts that you have? How are they going to get the usernames, passwords in order to access that information? Number 4, credit cards. Check, make sure, if you want it, that your name is on the credit card account. In Michigan, if your spouse dies, you're not responsible for debts that are on his or her credit card alone, because that is not a credit card that is in your name. But remember, too, that if your spouse isn't on the card, they can't use it, and then we'll have to reapply for credit in his or her own name. So even if you're going to have individual credit cards, make sure that your spouse has a credit card available. I had a woman a number of years ago, she was in her 70s, her spouse died. She did not know how to even go about getting a credit card at that time because she never had one, because her husband was the one who always had the credit card. And I know this list almost sounds like talking to all the husbands about there, what you can do to prepare so that your wife will be able to manage things after death. But the same thing applies for women. We don't know who's going to die first. And in today's world, many women have their own credit cards and their husband isn't on those. Wives oftentimes are taking care of the financial matters without the husband's involvement, whatever it happens to be. So what I'm talking about today applies to both men and women husbands and wives, make sure that your spouse will have access to some sort of a credit card after your death. Number 5, discuss your funeral plans. Discuss your funeral plans. Not only can this save thousands of dollars, but it saves on a significant part of emotion. And I would suggest not just discuss, but plan your funerals. At least discuss what you want to have, what you want your service to be. Do you want to be cremated? Do you want to be buried in a particular location, etc.? Anything relative to the service. Go down to the funeral home, meet with the funeral folks, even plan your funeral. I have entire episodes of this program before on planning your funeral, but make sure you at least have let your spouse know what you want to be done. And today, in all of the documents that we do prepare, we always have an appointment of funeral representative so that somebody now has the legal authority to carry out those wishes. Really what you want your spouse to know, though, is that it's okay with you that if they don't choose the most expensive funeral, if that in fact is okay with you. Because at the time of your death, there's often an inclination to say, oh, I should give them the best funeral. I should spend more money on their funeral. And if that's not what you want, make sure that your spouse knows that that is okay. Number 6, and it seems pretty obvious sometimes, but again, depending upon who's paying the bills in your house, make sure that you know how, or that your spouse knows how the bills are being paid. Keep a list of how bills are paid. Are they paid online? Or do you write a check? When do they get paid? What day of the month do they get paid? Does the creditor mail you a bill? Do they email you a bill? Is a payment being automatically taken out of your bank account with anything to be done by you? You want to make sure that if something happens to your spouse, is going to know what all the bills are, when the bills are due, what bills they have to worry about. What you don't want them to be doing is missing a payment or overdrawing an account when you could have avoided all of that by sharing with them information on the bills. Again, some of them come in the mail, some of them you write a check, some of them you pay online, some of them automatically get paid. Whatever it happens to be, make sure that your spouse is up to date on all those mundane, if you will, accounting tasks that are so important. And number 7, I told you that this isn't going to be about estate planning, but number 7 really is about estate planning. Make sure that your estate plan is up to date. Make sure that your documents are up to date. If you have a will, make sure it's current. If you have a trust, make sure it's current. If you're using beneficiary designations or PODs or TODs, make sure they are all current, because after you die is not the time for your spouse to find out that your estate plan was out of date. Amanda and I can't tell you the number of times someone comes in after someone has died and they might not be happy with the estate plan that was in place with their loved ones, and they will often say, you know, he or she always told me that's not what they wanted. Well, the problem is telling you that's not what they wanted doesn't help if, in fact, what they wanted and what they told you is different than what they have put in place. So make sure your plan is up to date. Beneficiary designations, trust beneficiaries, will devisees, etc., so that your spouse isn't going to have those additional problems after you die because of an out-of-date estate plan. Of course, we would happy to meet with you to help you update your estate plan to make sure that your estate planning goals will be fulfilled. Again, 7 things. Gather financial papers, make a must-call list, share passwords, check credit cards, discuss funeral plans, learn how bills are paid, and lastly, make sure that your estate plan is up to date. Well, that's it for today's show. As always, if you have a comment about our program, perhaps a topic that you would like to have me discuss, or maybe you saw an article online that you think would be of interest to me that might spur me on to do a episode on it, or maybe questions that you'd like to have answered, just send me an email, tom@tuesdaywithtom.com, or mail me a postcard, Tom Doyle, P.O. Box 16066, Lansing, Michigan, 48901. And we invite you, please follow us on Facebook and Twitter. That's Tuesday with Tom. Follow the office as well at Doyle Law PC. And, of course, encourage your friends and family to follow as well. Remember, too, that the Tuesday with Tom app is available in both the App Store and Google Play. The program is available on Apple Podcast, and you can always ask your smart speaker to play Tuesday with Tom. Well, thanks again for spending some of your Tuesday morning with us. As always, I hope that you have an awesome day and an awesome week in Michigan. Tuesday with Tom has been brought to you by the estate planning attorneys at Doyle Law PC. To learn how we can help you with your estate plan or with settling a loved one's estate, please call us today at 517-323-7366. That's 517-323-7366.